Who is Jesus? Jesus was a Jewish man who lived about 2,000 years ago in the nation of Israel before it was disbanded by the Romans. He was a carpenter. He would have made household utensils, farm tools, that kind of thing. His birth is remembered traditionally at Christmas time, and his death is traditionally remembered at Easter. He divides time. The year is 2020, that's 2020 years since Jesus Christ. He is the subject of the world's best-selling book, the Bible, and more books have been written about him than any other person in the world. A third of the world still claim to be his followers even today. So why is he so important? Well, that's a $1,000,000 question. Some people just think he was a good and a wise man who showed us how to live, but Christians believe that he is the Son of God. I want to back that claim up by thinking about prophecy, thinking about his life, and thinking about his teaching. Now, the Old Testament part of the Bible was written over 400 years before Jesus was born, but it contains prophecies about a special person that was going to come, the Anointed One, in Hebrew, the Messiah, and in Greek, the Christ. So these prophecies contain details like which tribe he'd be born into, where he would be born, where he would live, the fact that he's hated by men yet lives a good life, the fact that he's betrayed for 30 pieces of silver and crucified, even though crucifixion hadn't been invented as a method of capital punishment at the time. Now, the chances of these handful of prophecies that I've just mentioned to you being fulfilled are pretty low. You've definitely got more chance of winning the lottery. But Jesus didn't just fulfill these prophecies that I've mentioned. He fulfilled over 300 prophecies from the Old Testament. Now, that's impossible unless he actually is the Son of God. But let's consider his life. In the Bible, Luke says that he went about doing good, healing all who were oppressed of the devil, for God was with him. Now, the Jewish historian Josephus makes a similar point about him. So these biblical and extra-biblical sources are saying the same thing. Ordinary men can't do these kind of things. Ordinary men can't do miracles. Now, what about his teaching? Remember, many people just think he was a good and a wise man and nothing else. But that's not what he said. He said, I am come from the Father and I'm come into the world. He was claiming to be the Son of God. And the Jews knew that he was doing that because they said, you being a man are making yourself God. Now, the author C.S. Lewis, in his book Mere Christianity, says, somebody who claims to be the Son of God is on the level of somebody claiming to be a poached egg. You don't really have the option of saying this was a good and a wise man. Either he was making a false claim and knew he was making a false claim, which makes him a liar, or he was making a false claim and didn't know he was making a false claim, which makes him delusional, or he was telling the truth, which makes him the Son of God. So what happened to him? Well, he was crucified, which is a Roman method of capital punishment, but there are some usual aspects to this case. Firstly, the judge in the trial said that he couldn't find that he'd done anything wrong. Not just that he couldn't find he'd done anything wrong to merit capital punishment, but he couldn't find he'd done anything wrong at all. Secondly, Jesus had showed power through his whole life, power to do amazing things, but he never used that power to escape his captors. Thirdly, the fact that he'd be crucified was part of prophecy, which suggests that God always intended this to happen. If this was simply a story about a good person who was unjustly murdered, it wouldn't hold the significance it does. But the story goes on to tell us that after his death and burial, he was resurrected 3 days later. Now, there are more eyewitness accounts to this than many other generally accepted historical facts, and the majority of the original disciples died gruesome deaths for not recanting this statement that they'd seen him alive. Now, I don't know about you, but if I told a lie about something, I would be admitting it was a lie long before the gruesome death stage. So why did all of this happen? Well, in the Bible, the book of Hebrews states, we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honour, that he, by the grace of God, should taste death for every man. We are seeing the Son of God being punished for the sins that we committed, so that God can offer us forgiveness. And so he can say in Romans, if you will confess with your mouth Jesus as Lord and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. So I hope that this short video has helped you to answer the question, who is Jesus Christ?